Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you all would kindly take a seat, we will have plenty of time towards the end of the session to mill around at the tables and have some one-to-one time with the project managers and staff. All right. So, well, I feel like I should sit with you because there's just a couple of us. I don't even know if I need this, but that's okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for coming out on this Monday evening to learn a little bit more about the Varren Sidewalk project. Just an overview. This is a sidewalk study. We're completely unsure if we're going to place the sidewalk yet. We're trying to investigate to see what residents' feelings, thoughts, concerns, questions are about that, as well as see if it is feasible. So we're here tonight to really spend time with you and to kind of answer any questions you may have and find out about your lived experience on the road because we don't live there. So that is our hope. Yes.
For anyone online.
Oh, yes.
They think this is Pontiac Trail. It's not the right meeting.
Oh, yes. I think there's a little confusion. We have another project that will start sometime later on Pontiac Trail. And I think it's around the Varren area. So if you're here online or in person for the Pontiac Trail project, you're at the wrong meeting. You're off the hook tonight. You can go home or exit the session. But we'll go ahead and get started. So just some meeting etiquettes. When we're here to learn and avoid speculation and ill intent. Please remember to speak kindly to others, project managers, neighbors, use thoughtful language, and be sure to critique the idea, not the person. We want to be respectful and have a cooperative and collaborative session. And I think those are the most important things to do if we would like to achieve that goal. When we do sidewalk, road, any type of construction project, if it's in the scope, we always strive to have some type of public engagement. So as I said, this is a study, and one of the portions of the study is to talk with residents, stakeholders in the area to find out more. So that is what we're hoping to accomplish tonight and also in the future with more meetings, some informational videos, all kinds of things. So that is our goal, to learn about your concerns, your values in your neighborhood, and to discuss and investigate what's feasible engineering-wise. So you've already met me. My name is Jasmine Isaac. I'm the community specialist. If you received a cute little postcard in the mail, that was from me. If you didn't, thank God you somehow made it here. Maybe your neighbor told you, but thank you again for coming. So we have a couple other key staff. We have Chris Wall, it's in the back. He is the project manager, so you can ask him all kinds of questions. We also have Mark McCullough from our consultant team, Wade Trim. And we also have a lot of amazing other consultants and staff in the back from Wade Trim. And then we have my lovely colleague at the city, Cynthia, with transportation. So any of these people can answer the questions that you have. Please don't ask me any questions. I'm not an engineer. I'm just a happy face. But if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them or direct you to the person that can. So a quick look at what we're going to kind of go through tonight. Purpose of our engagement, the overview of this study or this project, some challenges we may face if we attempt to put a sidewalk in, some potential design options, more like a toolkit of what you could possibly see if a sidewalk were placed, and ultimately our next steps in the process. And then our favorite part, breakout sessions where we get to chat with you all. So very quickly, the purpose of engagement, I think I touched on this already. We are hoping to accomplish in all things that we do, there's a need for non-motorized accessibility in the city. We love our city, we love to drive, but not everybody can drive. So it's important that we're able to have a means for everyone to get around our amazing city. Of course, we want to receive feedback from you, from residents, your values and concern, and ultimately develop a cost estimate that we can have a real idea of what this project would cost and how we can implement it. So the overview and need, I'm going to give you guys a quick history lesson of Ann Arbor and our transportation policy milestones. So the need for sidewalks, it can be traced back through several transportation policy milestones that the city has implemented, and they have grown in importance over the last couple of years. So in 2011, Ann Arbor's Complete the Streets resolution emphasized that the city, excuse me, emphasized that the city's transportation systems are provided to support mobility for all, regardless of their age, or, oops, I'm so sorry. I don't know where my mouse is. I want it to file down on my notes. It will not.
You clicked on the next one. So
Yes, but I can't see my notes. Please hold. Yeah, I want to.
So I just click on the mouse down here.
Okay.
It'll go to the slideshow. You gotta kind of find it though. It's like on this side. There you go. So the upper corner.
Okay. All right. So, where was I? 1 second. Is there something important I don't want to miss? May I ask for some support, Cynthia? She is a pro at this, and I don't want to tell you incorrectly, hence the notes. But they're not working now, so I'll turn it over to Cynthia. She's a pro at this, our transportation specialist. Thank you.
No worries. So as Jasmine was saying, our Complete Streets resolution did establish the need for all of our projects to include all modes of travel. In 2015, council passed a resolution declaring the city to be a Vision Zero city. And Vision Zero, it's zero fatalities and serious injuries resulting from transportation crashes on our system. So that philosophy is that humans err, crashes will happen, but we don't want anyone to die from it. Following up on that resolution, the city went through a comprehensive plan update, which is not the next thing that's on here. And the funny thing is about that is that after we started our plan, the carbon neutrality plan started. They got finished up a little bit before us, so they're on the timeline first. The carbon neutrality plan is called A20. Our plan is called Ann Arbor Moving Together Towards Vision Zero, which can be a little confusing. People do get that a little confused sometimes. We also have our new millage for sidewalks that was approved, and that's construction of sidewalks, right? We have two separate millages. One is the construction of sidewalks millage, and one is the maintenance of sidewalks millage. And then, of course, A2 Moving Together got passed in 2021. You're welcome.
Thank you, Cynthia. So that was a brief history of how we arrived where we are today and the importance of implementing sidewalks. So overall, if you kind of push that all together and take it away in 3 bites, the most important thing, our goals and values, is safety, accessibility for all, and mobility. So I'm going to turn it over to the project manager and our consultant team, Wade Trim, to give us a little bit more information about how sidewalks are chosen and ranked in priority in our city. Thank you.
Thanks, Jasmine. Mark McCullough, again, work with Wade Trim, representing the city of Ann Arbor. Really thankful for you guys to take time to come this evening and engage with us so we can learn from you guys. So what you see here on the screen is a GIS snapshot of the sidewalk gap village needs throughout the city. And they're prioritized, red being the highest priority, green being the lowest priority. Not to say that none of them are important, because they're all important. It's just that resources are scarce and you have to do with what you can first and then work your way down the list from there. So there's a total of 442 miles of lane miles of existing sidewalk in the city limits, of which 140 are identified as those gaps. That's an old slide, so forgive me. That's a different project that had a petition. But if you did have a petition for a sidewalk, then it counts as points towards rising up in the priority list as far as addressing it first before others. So there's an online dashboard that's available, and you can seek that information by going to a2.gov.org new sidewalks. So in this presentation, we'll talk a little bit about terms being right of way and then grading and permanent easements. So the right of way is what you see on the screen here, goes from property line to property line. And that gives the jurisdictional government, in this case, the city of Ann Arbor, the rights to be able to maintain the highway and drainage along there. So if the city were to do any type of a road improvement project, they have legalities to be able, they have the right to be able to work within those limits. If a project were to go outside of that right-of-way boundary and onto a person's property, there's two different types of easements that can be acquired. One is temporary grading easement, and that's just nothing more than the ability, a short-term ability for a contractor to work on your property in order to grade it so that it's in your best interest that it functions properly. It comes with an expiration date on there. That's very common in the construction world. The permanent easement is more of when you need to put something, an asset of the city outside of the right of way onto private property and to be able to maintain it. That runs perpetual for the property and is getting recorded down at the county register of deeds office called a permanent easement. And that's an agreement between the city and the property owner that grants the city legal rights to use the specified area for the land for sidewalks. The first mission for Wade Trim on behalf of the city is to keep any type of the project within the road right of way. Because we want to minimize disruptions whatsoever along the corridor. Now that's not always the case. We're not always successful in doing that, but that's sometimes, and then we work with grading easements and permanent easements. So if you ever had any questions or you hear that term being tossed around throughout this presentation in the back there, that's what those terms mean. There's a few township islands that reside along here from Pontiac Trail to Olmsted. They're highlighted here in this maroon color, pink color. Basically, because you pay these individual properties, I don't know if you're here this evening, you pay your property taxes, not just to the county, but to Ann Arbor Township. So you're not in the city limits. So how this works, as it's explained to me, is that there's an assessment for the sidewalk that would be issued when it is built to a non-taxable property such as these in pink. And then the assessment will not be collected until such a time when the property is annexed into the city. So it could be years away if a project were to happen and a sidewalk were placed along the frontage right here. It would just go on a log as far as this is how much each individual property would be paying. And then if and when it ever gets annexed in the city, that's when the individual, whoever owns the property at that time, would need to pay the assessment. Clicked ahead too fast. So what are some of the project challenges with this? This is very high level stuff. But first and foremost, the environment is always first on our minds. Ann Arbor is very unique in the sense of it's got a lot to offer and there's a lot that comes with it. So we have the Varren Woods Nature Area on the south side of the road near Olmsted, and I can't think of the name of it directly across from it from the subdivision. But you also have grade changes in topography, and I'll show you a couple of those slides where that's just nothing more than a fancy term for you got to do some cuts and excavate material out in order to make room for the sidewalk pathway to be put in place. So we want to minimize those types of grade changes. Those grade changes can then have impacts on properties, which gets into those easements that we talked about in the right of way, which ultimately ends to the bottom line of the project. Whether you're cutting a tree, whether you're acquiring an easement, those do add up into the project cost. So we're always looking here to find a win-win solution as an engineer. How can we provide the end result of the city's goal to connect people via sidewalk or bike lanes or whatever it will be, but do it in a cost-effective manner that tries to protect the environment and you as a property owner, impacts to your property. So this has not been designed whatsoever. We're here as a conceptual stage. So what I'm about to show you are just from my experience as an engineer, some options based on what I observed in the field of what could possibly happen along either side of the roadway. So as you folks know that you live there, there are pieces of sidewalk on the north side and south side. In addition to that, there's gaps to that. Some of the other projects that we're working on with engagement sessions here on River Drive and Getty's Road in particular, between Huron Parkway and US 23 Earhart Road, is that there's no sidewalk on either side because, well, there's a reason. It's very tough, honestly, and the terrain itself is very challenging. So in those instances, if a project were to move forward, we were looking for those individuals to say, if we were to move forward the project, would you like on the north side or south side? I think in this case, for Varren Road, because there's already at least 50%-ish of sidewalk on both sides of the road, I think it's achievable that we can have a dialogue right now to say, would you want it on one side, the gas filled on one side, so north side, south side, or both? And then we can look at that as far as a cost comparison. So taking that into consideration, one of the cheapest alternatives to use, and for those that can see this at home, is a shoulder with a ditch. With the right of way in place, sometimes it's limited, and you have to be able to maintain the water that comes off the road, whether that's snow melt or rain events. And that space can sometimes be challenging with the pathway or sidewalk in itself. So you try to find a way to, when there's a way for the two to coexist between a ditch bottom and a sidewalk pathway, and be able to keep things like trees, that's a big win. It's the lowest cost. Shared use path is just really nothing more than a sidewalk that's wider. It gives more room to be able to bike on it, to walk on it, for people to coexist together at non-motorized ways. Curb and gutter would be another solution when you don't have the affordability, meaning space, to be able to have the two coexist with each other with the sidewalk and drainage. So what you do is the drainage goes underground, the storm pipe, and then you can put the sidewalk on top with a 3-foot gap, preferably for safety, to enhance safety for the walker and for snow to be stored during the winter months. Where you start getting into the more pricey options is where you need to put retaining wall in order to reduce the amount of cut or tree removal on a property that sits higher or lower than the roadway. So this is an example of the retaining wall being placed. You excavated this area out, placed a retaining wall, and then you had that sufficient space to have your sidewalk, your buffer space between the car, and then all the drainage is underground. So this is obviously more expensive. And then the ultimate price tag one, I called it a pedestrian bridge because I wasn't sure if this is something that may be utilized near the railroad, and there's to the west of the railroad is that creek that goes underneath the roadway there. So this might be a short segment bridge to span that area in there. So this costs, give or take, $2,000 a foot just to build it. And then you got to maintain it as it moves forward. So these are some of the options I envision could be used along there. But a lot of this, what ifs, will depend on what type of feedback we get from you folks this evening as far as what values do you have for this area. So what are the next steps? So right now, we're here in this yellow spot of the engagement session. We're here, like we said, what are your values? What are your concerns? Based on the feedback that you're going to hear, we're very well staffed tonight because normally we have 20 to 30 people in the audience. So that's why we have a lot of people here. But they take notes, we listen, we ask questions around those tables when we huddle up. And we take that feedback, and what we're going to end up doing that is going, all right, this is what the values we heard. We're going to then, as engineers, investigate what the possibilities are based upon that feedback we received, and then put a cost estimate together as what that would potentially look like. And then in August and September, our goal is to come back to you as a group and say, this is what we heard. This is what we saw in the field. And based upon the two, this is what we're proposing. And this is what the potential cost is for this to happen. That will then go to the city leaders to then be placed in what they call the capital improvement plan. Projects don't get built unless they're in the capital improvement plan, which is nothing more than an official document for identifying needs for 5 years that are funded. If it's not in that 5-year plan, it's kind of just in a long range plan, just unfunded. But the point is that we don't know when that date will come. So even if people in August say, we love this, please move forward quickly and do this, it should be determined when it would happen as far as part of the capital improvement plan. So we're gonna go into the, yeah, Chris, go ahead.
Go back, that's like you explain the engineering and construction. part. Once it goes into the CIP,
This part here?
no, engineering and construction basis at the end. No, the orange, above,
Oh, okay. In my mind, I thought I did. So that's the part where it goes into the capital improvement plan. And if there's funding identified for that, what kind of funding is available? That's something I didn't hit on. So there's different sources of funding that one could be used to use. Sometimes it's state money, sometimes it's federal money. Could be a combination of the sidewalk gaps money. Once all of that funding is identified, then it gets placed in the 5-year plan. If it's long range, it's beyond that where the funding is still not identified. It kind of goes, what's the term that we used to call it
Yeah.
long range planning,
yeah, it's 2025.
beyond 2025.
Yeah, 20.
But no design would happen for this until it makes this the 5-year CIP. And then, and funding is identified. And then we would have a design period where we'd start putting pen to paper, figuring out drainage concerns, figuring out site distance concerns, and then re-engaging with the public at that time when we get closer to a construction date. Did I hit on that, Chris?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for telling me that. Okay, so I'm going to hand it back to Jasmine. We got a light crowd tonight, which is good. It means we get to have more of a
Exactly.
close conversation with each other. So
Yes. So you guys are free to go at it. And for our folks online, we have a comment map that is going to go live in about 5 minutes on our webpage. And you can actually drop your comments there since you can't physically be here. So please do so that we can receive your feedback as well. But after that, you are free to leave the session and you guys are free to engage with our project managers and staff.